What I'd like to do is start here on this side with you, Jennifer, and if you will introduce yourself and tell us your story, we would love to have you begin.
My name is Jennifer Nordeen, and I want everybody to actually see my son's face. This is Dylan. He was 19. I found out he was using heroin March 11, 2013. I'll never forget that day. I found out when I was at work, and I drove home going about 20 miles an hour, knowing what the first thing I thought of was the end outcome, because his best friend had just died a couple months before I found out. Dylan had been in and out of treatment centers 6 times. I sent him to Florida in October of 2014 after he had received a second felony charge. He came back January 17th, 2015, and he died January 31st, 2015. We found him in his bed, blue and dead. And there's nothing worse than having to open up an autopsy report and see the weight of his brain or his heart or his lungs. Knowing he was perfect, every single organ in his body was perfect, but he could not stop, and he wanted to stop. We had a conversation the night before, and he said, "Mom, I don't want to be this way. I don't want this." And he was my only child. He was my everything. And the cops told me, I called him, and this is crazy, I know it sounds crazy, 57,000 times in a year. That's how many times I called him. That's 165 times a day, because I knew what he was doing every single day. During work I called repeatedly just to make sure it was okay. And he relapsed after 90 days being clean and died. He had a girlfriend of 7 years who 2 days after that overdosed. She did not die, she almost died. And that's where, I don't know if you guys know anything, but in the state of Minnesota, I actually helped pass Steve's Law, which is the Narcan, has to do with the Narcan. And there are only 4 police departments in the state of Minnesota that are actually using Narcan, and it's been passed for 2 years. There's funding sitting there, and no police departments will even consider funding for it or apply for funding for it. But I started a nonprofit called Free Heroin's Hold in December of last year, and we've sent how many kids to treatment? 32 kids to treatment. We had a golf tournament in his name, and all the money went to send kids to treatment. We get scholarships all around the nation in his name, and there's just nothing. There's nothing worse than having to lose your only child. He was my best friend. He was my everything, and I don't wish this upon anybody. There has to be longer treatment centers, and aftercare has to go along with the insurance as well, because Dylan didn't have any living skills. We worked so hard, and that is not included in any of this. It only covers 28 days. 28 days he was gone. He was in a halfway house, and that was it. And then he had to pay $600 for rent, and they can't afford that. He didn't know what to do. He did not know how to live, and they do not teach that in treatment. They sit in class all day long, 8 to 4, and they listen. They do the very thing that triggers them. They're talking about the very thing that triggers them all day long. We have to change the way our treatment system works. We're going off a system that was created in 1940 or 1960 for AA. This is a completely different drug. An 18-year-old heroin addict is not the same as a 50-year-old alcoholic with a wife and 3 kids. But they group them together and they sit them in the same room. And he couldn't kick it, no matter how hard he tried. And we've seen 7 of his friends die. 7. And I had to bury my only child, and I don't want anybody else to have to do this. That's why I'm here. Something has to change. The treatment system has to be long, at least 90 days, and which also includes IOP.
Jennifer, thank you for sharing with us your story and also your recommendations. That's really what we need to hear, is both. And we really appreciate your telling us what your experiences were and giving us real life suggestions about what we could do to help those who are in a situation such as your son, so we could save their life. Thank you.